The race for the NRL finals is shaping up to be one of the best we've seen in years. So I thought I'd take a look at who's going to make the eight and what the final ladder will look like. This is who's going to make the top eight. Bergs here from the Casual Athlete, guys, and I'm so excited to bring you this video here today. I'm going to be taking a look at the teams coming third all the way down to 15th, as those teams are the teams that have the potential to make the eight. Mathematically, there are some that can still make it, and we won't be talking about the Eels or the Tigers. So, unfortunately for their fans, they are out of the race at this stage. And I do feel as though the Panthers and the Storm have definitely locked in a finals position. But everyone from the Roosters down has a chance of making the eight. But before I get into my video, guys, just a reminder to like and subscribe to the channel. We bring out so much content each and every week. Hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any new videos just like this. Now let's take a quick look, guys, at who I have in the 15th position. And unfortunately for Bunnies fans, it has been a bit of a resurgence towards the back end of this year, but I do not see them finishing any higher than 15th. They have proved a lot of people wrong this year, especially from rounds 10 to 20, but I just feel like this back end of the season is going to be particularly difficult. I believe that the Rabbitohs are going to finish on 22 points. With the orange marker there, guys, that's a maybe. For me, I feel like it's a game that possibly could go either way, and the red ring around it symbolizes that I feel like they will lose the game, and a green ring will symbolize that I think that they will win the game. As you can see here, for the Bunnies, I don't feel like they're going to be winning their next two games in round 22 and 23. Big, tough ones up against the Sharks. Away from home, down at Shark Park, difficult place to go to, and they are going to be at home to the Storm, but the Storm top of the table at this point. I just can't see them winning that game. I do feel like, however, they will go to Campbelltown and beat the Tigers in round 24, but unfortunately I feel like that is where the success will end for them. They're currently sitting on 20 points. Just the one win out of their last six is what I see happening. I don't really think they're going to get home against the Knights, but that's a game that could definitely go either way. They're not beating the Panthers out at Penrith. I think the Panthers may consider resting players at that point, but one game out from the end of the season, they'd probably do it in round 27. And I just feel like I've put a maybe there against the Roosters, but I do feel like the Roosters are the stronger team and will end up winning that game. It's always a classic. It's going to be at a core stadium, that game. But I just feel like they haven't got enough in the tank, unfortunately, and they will finish the season in 15th position. The key man to watch out for them, if they are to improve and possibly finish any higher than 15th, has got to be Latrell Mitchell. He is due back for that Tigers game, potentially for the Storm game next week. And he is 100% the linchpin if they are going to be anywhere near successful towards the back end of this season. Like I said, I feel like the Bunnies, they've done well to get out of the doldrums of potentially looking down the barrel of a wooden spoon where they were a few rounds ago. And Latrell was great up until his selection for Origin, and unfortunately went down with that injury. And he is so good when it comes to Cody Walker as well. I think Cody Walker has lost his place a little bit without him, and they're much better when they're out on the field together. So hopefully the Bunnies can do a bit better than this, but I just see them finishing in 15th spot. In 14th, it's the Titans, and they are also going to be finishing on 22 points. They have a few games over their last six that really could go either way, especially against the Sharks, the Dragons, and the Knights. I do feel like they will get a win. I said it in my tipping video earlier this week against the Broncos. That, for me, is almost a certainty, but you never know. It is also one that could possibly go either way, but I'm going to stick to my guns on that one. I feel like the Titans this year, they've been a little bit disappointing in terms of the way they started the year and have left themselves in too much of a hole to dig themselves out of. But this end of the season, they can be proud of some of the efforts that they put together. They had a nice little 3-game winning streak as well, and that's something to be proud of. The key man for them, if they're going to be any better than 14th position, they really need to get David Fifita going. He needs to get his hands on the ball a lot more and just needs to be running rampant over these last 6 rounds in order to push them into a place where they need to win all 6 of these games. But I just feel as though coming up against the Panthers, especially in round 27, they may rest a few players, considering they may have locked in second position on the ladder and may just have to settle down and play in that second position. I do feel like Cleary will play that game though and try and get in as many games as he can before these finals to tune up and really put the sword to teams in the final series. But unfortunately for Titans fans, it's possibly a season they want to forget, and they will be finishing the year in 14th spot. Next up, Warriors, and they are currently sitting on 21 points, and I feel like they are going to finish the season in 13th position. I just can't see them going away to the Dolphins, getting a win. It's a game that could go either way, but I see them losing that. They're not beating Manly at Brookvale Oval. That place has been a fortress this year. I feel like they're just going to not be good enough to take on the Dogs. While that game will be at home, I feel like the Dogs will get the better of them. And the Sharks away is always a tough one to get done. They will, however, beat the Eels this week, and that will be their last win for the season. And they get the bye in round 27, finishing with a total of 25 points. The key man for them, if they are to get any more success out of the season, has got to be Adam Fanua-Blake. I know a lot of people would have said Sean Johnson needs to get going, but for me, with Tohu Harris out, Adam needs to be the guy. I know he's leaving at the end of the year, but he needs to give it everything he has for the Warriors. They do have that extra 1 point than some other teams that are currently below them, but I just feel like they're not going to make any more of a stir than 13th spot this season. In 12th, I have the Raiders, and I know what you're thinking. Bergs, you're crazy. They're currently sitting in ninth spot on 24 points. But for me, I feel like they're only going to get one more win this season. Look at this horrible schedule. 5 of their last 6 games are away from home, and they play a lot of top 8 teams on the way to the final series. And I just feel like they're only going to get one more win, and that will be in round 27 at Netstrata Jubilee Stadium against the Dragons. Once again, it's a game that could go either way. There is not one game that I saw in these last 6 games that I could just give to the Raiders. Unfortunately, the Dogs, they're playing them at Belmore this week. They're not beating Manly at Brookvale. I don't see them going up to Townsville and beating the Cowboys. I don't see them beating Penrith in round 25. And the Roosters, come on, they're not beating them either. So when you look at it, it really looks like the Raiders are only going to get 2 more points out of this season, and that would land them in 12th position this year, just ahead of the Warriors and just behind my 11th place team. But if they are to succeed this year and get a few more wins than what I'm predicting, Jamal Fogarty has to be the guy that steps up. I know he's only come back into the team very recently, but once he has made them play quite a lot better. His kicking game is so underrated. I know I talk about Jamal Fogarty a lot on this channel. I feel like I'm in love with Jamal Fogarty, the way he plays, but I just feel like they are a much calmer, much more structured team when he is in the side. And if they are going to get into these final series, Jamal Fogarty will play a big part, but I don't see it happening. I think they're going to be 12th. In 11th, I have the Knights, and their run home, it's not good, but it's not bad either. They do play the Panthers this week away from home, and they definitely not be winning that game, but I do have them beating the Tigers in round 23. Then they have away trips to the Sharks. I just don't see them beating the Sharks at Shark Park. I feel like the Rabbitohs away is a game that could go either way, and then the Titans at home, I feel like that's a game that they should win, but once again, with the Knights, it's one that could definitely go either way, and also the Dolphins could go either way as well. At home, though, I'd probably give them a fighting chance, but I just feel like the Dolphins will be in the fight for that finals, and they are higher up on this list and could potentially snag a spot in the final round against them as well. Knights could play party poopers, but I just feel like the Dolphins will have much more to play for on that day. It's weird for the Knights this year. I just feel like they haven't had Ponga for a big part of the year, so we don't really know what their full potential was like. Their halves have been utterly embarrassing this year. I don't know how they can continue with this kind of turmoil. I feel like Adam O'Brien seems to be very snappy to make certain decisions and isn't sticking with certain players at the right time and just cutting the wrong player as well. I think Cogger was in for a bit. Gamble is in. He seems to like Tyson Gamble a lot. I'm not seeing what he's offering the team. Hastings is a very polarizing figure. Let's be a little bit quaint on that one. I just feel like they're going to be finishing around the 11th position and not much more than that. But if they are going to succeed and possibly win every game to get into this final series, then Kalen Ponga is the man to look for. I just don't know how they succeed, and they weren't going to succeed if he was going to be out of the team for any longer than he was. not so sure he's found his perfect form coming back from injury, but if they are to get anywhere near this final series, he will definitely play a big part. But I just don't see it happening. 11th place for the Knights. A surprise to some, but not to many. The Brisbane Broncos will be finishing in 10th position this year. They currently sit on 20 points, and I believe they're only going to get 8 more points out of this season. As I said before, the Titans will be beating them this week at Cbus Super Stadium, and I don't see them going up to North Queensland and beating the Cowboys, albeit that game is always a toss of a coin and always good to watch. But I feel like they'll be heading into the bye, licking their wounds and wondering what happened to this season. They'll come out of the bye recuperated, rested, and ready to take on the last 3 games of the year, where they will get wins against the Eels. I believe they'll beat the Dolphins, but that is a game that could go either way. And I think they get a win against the Storm in round 27. I want to basically preface this with a caveat. I feel like the Storm will have locked up the minor premiership by that point, and they will be resting all of their important players and not wanting to risk any injury to those players. So I just feel like the Broncos will be looking at this season as definitely one that got away from them. You can't turn up with the same attitude and think just because you made it to the grand final last year that you will automatically get there again. They really haven't adapted to any of the new style that some of the teams are playing this year. And in turn, some teams have figured them out a little bit as well. Their attack is somewhat one-dimensional in terms of the way that they like to attack, and you can easily exploit it if you know the right key trigger movements. And I feel like there's no better example of that than what the Dogs did to them last week. And Kevy really needs to go back to the drawing board on this one. They've got a few coaching changes happening in the offseason, so hopefully they can make a go of it in 2025. But if they are to win all 6 games and make the finals this year, then Adam Reynolds has to be the man to step up. They've been without him most of the season, but if he can get it going as the experienced player, the leadership man, the captain of that club, if he can get them going and get them up for the last 6 games of the year and give themselves a fighting chance, 32 points will be in and around the top 8, and they might be able to get there, then he has got to be the man to do it. But I just don't see it happening this year. 10th position for the Broncos. In 9th and finishing oh so close to the final series this year, I have the St. George Illawarra Dragons. Once again, looking at the schedule over the next 6 rounds, I couldn't just give them a game. I know you guys are probably looking at the round 26 fixture with the Parramatta Eels and saying that they'll easily win that, but that game is at CommBank Stadium, and maybe the Eels might want to avoid the wooden spoon there. So I've just, given them a green ring around that maybe. So it's a game that I think that they will win, but it could go the other way. I don't think they'll beat the Storm down at Amy Park this week. I don't see them being strong enough to beat the Dogs at Netstrata Jubilee Stadium, but then they've got 2 games at home and they are both at Wynn Stadium against the Sharks and the Titans, and I have said that they will probably win those games. They are games that could definitely go either way, but they do have a green ring around them. And I just feel like they won't get home against the Raiders, and it'll be another final day crash out from the Dragons, and we've seen it in the past, unfortunately. But if you told me that they were going to finish in 9th position this year, I would have laughed you out of the room. They have been one of the storied teams of the season, and Shane Flanagan is definitely building something to be proud of. If they are to get into the finals this year, then a lot of it has to come through Ben Hunt. He is the Origin superstar. He is the $1 million man down there. I know Zach Lomax has been extremely important for them this year and has been in sublime form, but I feel like a halfback is a little bit more influential than a winger at this point in the season. And Ben Hunt has got to be the man if they are to get anywhere near it. But I just feel like they're going to be oh so close. But yet so far, 9th position for the Dragons. Squeaking in on for and against on 30 points, we have the Dolphins, and they will earn their finals appearance, the first finals appearance for the club. Well done to Wayne Bennett this season. As you can see, the run home, it isn't great, but it isn't bad as well, kind of similar to the Knights. They do have a game against the Roosters at home this week, but I do believe they will lose that game, unfortunately. They will then go on to beat the Warriors. This is a big one. They will beat the Dogs away from home, but that game is not in Sydney. It is out at Bundaberg. That is why I believe they will get the win there. Dolphins always synonymous with a bit of country folk, and they will turn it up for them out in Bundaberg. I don't know why the Dogs are taking a game to Bundaberg against a Queensland team. I mean, how many teams have been successful doing that? But I believe they'll get a win there, and it will be an important one because they will then lose their next 2 games against the Storm, who will be in the race for that minor premiership, but it won't be over just yet. So they will take on a full strength Storm team down at Amy Park. Possibly not going to happen for them. They won't beat the Broncos, but I do feel like they will beat the Knights in round 27 and secure that 8th spot in the 8. Of course, the player to look out for them is Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow. He has been outstanding this season, and he needs to be fit and ready to go for any of these 6 games. And you could also make a case that their most important player is Wayne Bennett. He is going to be the one trying to get them into these final series, and he has plenty of experience in those finals, and they're going to make it this year. The Dolphins will be finishing in 8th position and claim their maiden finals debut. Finishing in 7th position, I have the North Queensland Cowboys. I believe they're going to earn 34 points this season. In their next few games, I expect them to pick up a few wins. The Tigers game at Leichhardt is a maybe for me, just because it is at Leichhardt, and considering what they did to us last year at Leichhardt. Broncos is also a maybe. They could find form, and they are a very dangerous team, but I expect us to get a win in Townsville. I expect us to beat the Raiders also in Townsville. The bye also really helps the Cowboys here. Late in the season bye, they've put themselves in a decent position to be able to benefit from it. I just don't think they'll get the win against the Storm at home, although the Storm could have secured the minor premiership by that point and may not want to risk any players getting injury, so you never know, and I just don't see them going down to Sydney and beating the Dogs in the last round. That could be a battle for the top 4 potentially, so the Cowboys could finish in the top 4, or they could finish as low as 7th for me, but I do feel like they are making it this year, and that is good for me, considering I had them finishing 7th at the start of the season. The player to watch out for is no doubt Scotty Drinkwater. He has been unbelievable this year, has been rising up the try assist tally as well. Always effervescent when he is out there, got great speed out the back of shape. He is a lot like Reece Walsh and can really put a candle to him when it comes to, that speed play. He's probably a better playmaker than Reece Walsh as well, but maybe not as fast. And he is going to be crucial to us making a run deep into these finals, and also part of the dream to make it there in the first place. And I think the Cowboys get there this year. 7th position for the Cowboys. I didn't think I would put this team here when I was first putting together this video, but the Manly Sea Eagles will be finishing 6th this season, and they've done some hard yards earlier in the year, and it is paid off with an easy draw towards the back end of the year. They start with a bye in round 22, then away to the Raiders, where I think they will get a win, but it is a game that could go either way. They'll then play the Warriors at Brookvale, and I think they get a win there. They play the Tigers away from home, but it's the Tigers, so you'd want to hope that they get a win. I don't think that they will beat the Dogs away from home. The Dogs seem to be so good at home this year. And they also get to play the Sharks at Brookvale as well. I know the Sharks have won their last 2 games at Brookvale, but Manly will be pushing for having a home final at Brookvale. And that is something that they definitely want in their corner this year. Anybody who watches rugby league and follows the Manly Sea Eagles knows that their key player is Tom Trbojevic. He needs to be at his rampaging best if they are going to make a run in these finals and potentially be a dark horse in this finals series. A lot of people are considering them a bit of a dark horse. They can put on a lot of points, can score a lot of points, and their defense is a little bit lacking, but their halves pairing is quite good, and Luke Brooks should be playing his first finals game this season. What a moment that will be for him. Hopefully he doesn't get a win in it, because it means, due to my list, that they will be playing the Cowboys. But I do think this is a successful season for Manly, and no doubt they can make a dent in these finals if given the chance. Missing out on the top 4 on for and against, it will be the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. They will finish 5th on 36 points this season. By no means is this a failure, missing the top 4 for the Dogs. If you had asked their fans, what do you want out of this season, they would have taken making the 8, let alone having a home final. Whether they can get it out of Belmore is another story. I think it will be at a call, but they have managed to get massive crowds there this season. In terms of the fixtures on their run home, I believe they're going to get 5 out of 6 in this run to the finals. I believe they will get a win against the Raiders this week at Belmore. It's a ground where the Raiders haven't lost at this millennium, but they haven't played there that many times. I'm pretty sure it's 3 or 4 times since 2000. They will go away and get a win against the Dragons at Netstrata Jubilee. Again, that Dolphins game, as I spoke about, is in Bundaberg, and it is the home game for the Dogs. It'll possibly be the only home game that they lose this season. For the Warriors game, yes, it's a game where they have to go to New Zealand and play, but I feel like they get a win in that one, and I see them beating two of their bottom of the eight compatriots in the Seagulls and the Cowboys leading into the finals, which will prep them really well to take on the Dolphins first week of the finals. No doubt their best player and most important player is Stephen Crichton. He is leading from the front in a way that I did not think was possible for a centre. He's got to be up there for a Captain of the Year nomination for sure. He demands only what he will also do for the team in the regard that he will run through a brick wall if he has to. His defense is outstanding. He's been on the back of some great attacking plays and is always encouraging his teammates out there on the pitch, just leading by example, and that will get them all the way to fifth this year. Well done, the doggies. Fourth place Sharks, and they're lucky that their for and against is better than the Dogs at this point in time. Otherwise, they would possibly be looking at finishing fifth this season. I do feel like they are going to finish on the same points as the Dogs on 36, but they will get that top four spot and take on the minor premiers, whether it be Melbourne or the Panthers this year. Could be a scratchy effort towards the end of the season, but I believe they'll get wins against the Rabbitohs, the Titans, and the Knights. The Titans game, I think, could go either way, though, being away from home for them. For the Dragons game, that's down at Wynn Stadium, and I believe they will lose that one. I feel like the Dragons are pretty good down at Wynn Stadium. I think they'll get a win against the Warriors at home and finish the season at Brookvale with a loss. So that will put them on 36 points for the year and just edging out the Dogs for that top four spot. Their most important player, no doubt, is Nico Hines, and he will be coming back into the side around round 25, 26, and will be extremely important for the finals. The Sharks have a lot to prove going into the finals this year. They need to prove that they aren't a one and done or potentially two and done team this year in terms of finishing in the top four, losing first week, and then losing second week of the finals. It's happened to them before a couple of years ago against the Cowboys and then the Rabbitohs. So you'd want to hope that Nico has learnt a lot from that experience and will be ready to go after his injury. I'm not sure if they're going to be at the level that most Sharks fans want, but they're definitely going to be there. They're going to be finishing in fourth this season. I wasn't going to put this team here, but what the hell? The Roosters are going to be finishing in third position this season, and there's a real chance that they win all 6 games heading into the finals and build some real momentum. Dolphins away, then the bye, then out at Parramatta, then the Titans, then the Raiders, and the Rabbitohs to finish off the season. The only one that I could really see going either way is that Rabbitohs fixture. We all know how fiery those games can get, and there could be some possible suspensions and sin bins in that one, no doubt. The Rabbitohs have definitely gotten into their head before. Their key player is no doubt James Tedesco. He is the captain. He has been phenomenal this season, and everyone was writing him off going into the year. Yes, he lost that Origin number 1 jersey, but he has still been in really good form for the Roosters and will carry them all the way to the top 4 this year. So there you have it, guys. The final ladder for the NRL 2024 season. The Melbourne Storm will be picking up the minor premiership with the Panthers finishing second. We have the Roosters in third with the Sharks in fourth, the Dogs fifth, the Seagulls sixth, the Cowboys seventh, and the Dolphins rounding out the 8. Just missing out, we have the Dragons, the Broncos, the Knights, and the Raiders finishing in 12th, with the Warriors unable to capture the magic that saw them make the finals last season. The Titans finishing in 14th, with the Rabbitohs. Unfortunately, those two teams have some pretty hard runs home. And I think the Eels finish in 16th, with the Tigers getting their third wooden spoon in a row. But that's all we have time for this week, guys. Let me know what you think about this video down in the comments section below. Did I get it right? Did I nail the top 8 for the end of the season? In the meantime, like and subscribe to the channel. We bring out so much content each and every week. And I'll catch you on the next one.